Aloha, and welcome to another episode of Maunalua, Past, Present, and Future. My name is Kendrick Chang, and I'm with Livable Hawaii Kai Hui. And one of the key marks of our cornerstone here in East Honolulu is the Kaiwi coastline. And I have two real advocates and stewards of the Kaiwi coastline here. First, Councilmember Tommy Waters.
Hello.
And then we also have another individual, Mr. Reese Liggett from the Sierra Club Oʻahu group. Welcome. And us three, as both organizations and also with the council member with the city, we all have a vested interest in the Kaiwi coastline. I would just want to start with the council member. What in particular can the city do for the Kaiwi coastline?
Well, first of all, let me just say the Kaiwi coastline is one of the most beautiful spots on the entire island. And it's rural, right? There's no houses there. It's beach. And I think it needs to be preserved. So I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that it stays natural and preserved just the way it is.
Okay. And Reese, you've been involved with the Sierra Club. As many people know, many people see the Sierra Club as a national group, but we also have a very active local chapter. I was wondering, could you share more about the Sierra Club here locally, and how has the Kaiwi coastline been a major part of your organization's activities?
Well, in 2018, the Sierra Club in Hawaii celebrated its 50th anniversary. And we're divided into groups. I'm in Oʻahu group. There's one for Kauai, one for Maui, and one for the Big Island. And each group looks after its particular area and issues in its area. And an issue always for Oʻahu group are natural places, natural things. And for a long time, I've noticed natural features on the Kaiwi coast and been very interested in them.
Mm-hmm. And also, I did want to highlight that the Sierra Club is not only your only involvement, but you're also a member of the city's Clean Water and Natural Lands Commission. I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about that, because your role actually did help in preserving the Kaiwi Mauka lands a few years ago.
Yes, the Clean Water Natural Land Commission, which I am a member of, I was appointed by the mayor, and its role is to determine candidates for preservation toward clean water, toward natural land. It could be land in a natural state, it could be land in an agricultural state, an open state, or for cultural reasons, but preserve land with special purpose. So candidates for those and for that money are raised by the public. And we analyze them, and if we think they're good, why we propose them to City Council for funding. The money comes from a 0.5% set aside from real property taxes every year, goes into a fund, and that way there's money to put into special investments like for clean water and natural land.
Mm-hmm. And then just a follow-up question for our council member, as there have been several projects that been preserved parcels of land and waterways because of the clean water and natural land. So what has that done to help the district in East Honolulu?
Well, first of all, I think it's a wonderful program. And like you mentioned, the Kaiwi project was land purchased using these funds. And I'm not sure it would have been a reality without that fund. So I just love the fact that Reese is on there, because I know him personally. I know him as a good person, so he will support good projects. There's a parcel of land in the back of Kuli'o'o that I'm interested, and I'm not sure if I talked to you about that yet, Reese, but the community is very concerned about possible development in the back of Kuli'o'o. And most of it is preservation land, but there is a strip of land zoned urban. And the developers indicated that they were interested in building homes there. But the community really doesn't want it. It's on a steep slope. So the developer indicated that they would be open to having the Clean Water and Land Fund purchase this land too. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about at a later date, of course. We're talking about Kaiwi today. But you know, this is a great fund, and I think that it could be used for really good projects in our district.
And now, just returning back to the Kaiwi coastline, as basically the entire Maunalua, from Maunalua Bay all the way to Makapu'u Point by the lighthouse, you know, has been preserved in a large part because of the public's efforts. And we can stretch back from the Save Sandy Beach days. And as this show, in part, is a historical show, like for the two of you, maybe we'll start with Reese. Like, how's that important in terms of like just community advocacy over the stretch of a 40-year period?
Well, I was involved in the Save Sandy Beach campaign. I still have my T-shirt, as a matter of fact. And I'm so glad we were able to turn that around and get that land rezoned. You know, the coast is such a special place to me. I love to bring visitors there, and as you come over Cocoa Head and look down the coast, I say, you know, there is our Big Sur. Isn't that beautiful? And we have nothing else like that on Oʻahu. And it's so wild and natural looking that I think it's important. You know, you mentioned Maunalua to Makapu'u is actually a state scenic byway. And it's something that Livable Hawaii Kai Hui and the Hawaii Neighborhood Board helped bring to fruition. And that's a certified state scenic byway now. And part of a state scenic byway is to preserve the natural features. And it's those natural features at what is known as Vavamalu Beach that came to my attention. They're being abused every day, and it's really a refutation of the scenic byway policy and idea to have a place like that being destroyed every day.
And do you have anything to add, Councilman?
Yeah, interestingly, I'm your newly elected council member, right? I've been on the job for less than 6 months. But interesting story. So during the campaign, I was walking door to door, and I knocked on Reese's door. And, you know, one of the things he said was, you know, how do I feel about Vavamalu? And at first I'm like, geez, where is Vavamalu, right? I've known it as Sandy Beach, right? And he educated me on this, and I said, I love his ideas, and I'm going to fight all my might to achieve what really is your idea, right? And I think it came actually, other folks in the Hawaii Kai community also, it's their idea as well. But how I first how I first learned about it was through you, you know, walking door to door, and I thought that was really neat.
Okay. And then before we jump into, and we're going to discuss a lot about, you know, what Reese has been trying to address in terms of Waiʻamalu Beach, but also as Livable Hawaii Kai Hui owns the Mauka lands right on the other side, we also, part of both the Sierra Club and Livable Hawaii Kai Hui, took part in the Kaiwi explorations, which took place earlier this summer, and this is actually the second annual one. And Reese, you were one of the hike leaders, if you want to share more about that.
Yes, Livable Hawaii Kai Hui asked the Sierra Club for some hike leading expertise, and I've been an outings leader since, I guess, 1988, and I was glad to do that. And so I would lead a group. I did lead a group of about 20 people. There were many groups. We were spaced about 10 or 15 minutes apart. And it was really neat to get up on the high ground and look at the whole coast on this land that will forever be undeveloped. And but being up there and then looking down at the Vavamalu area, and to help people understand where Vavamalu is, if you think of driving from Hawaii Kai down Ke'alaho Street and you get to the Kalanianaʻole Highway, and you're at a traffic light. Well, across the street from that traffic light is Vavamalu Beach. And you look on any map of the coast, and it's identified as Vavamalu. Actually, Vavamalu was the name of the entire coast at one time, and when they made Sandy Beach Park, why they wanted to differentiate it. So it's Sandy Beach Park, but the rest of the coast is still Vavamalu.
Mm-hmm. And it's on the Makapu'u side of Sandy Beach Park.
Yeah.
To be clear. Well, like you said, the whole coast is Vava'amalu, but the area that we're talking about in particular is on the Makapu side of Sandy Beach.
Yeah, so now let's transition to that, and we do actually have a map and photos of the area, and it is really a concerning situation, and for viewers who might not be as aware, Reese, maybe, like, what exactly is the problem?
Well, Vava'amalu Beach is not really identified on the map there. I can see it, but it's hard to differentiate it. If you can pick out the road into Sandy Beach, it's the road it's the area to the east of that is Vava'amalu. It's a fairly narrow land of coast. As a matter of fact, on one end, on each end of it, there's a flat area that makes great parking spaces. And we know we need more parking on that coast for spillover from Sandy Beach and for people that like to use Vava'amalu Beach for surfing, fishing, picnicking, tide pool looking and waiting. Why, there are good parking places there. But right in the center of the Vava'amalu Beach area is an area of sand dunes, natural features, beach rocks, and a small sandy beach. But today, that small sandy beach is tracked by vehicles. It looks like a rodeo went through there. A rodeo of vehicles went through there. Think about it. That is also monk seal habitat. Monk seals have to come ashore to give birth and to rest. Predators are always after those monk seals. Sharks are trying to get them. They need rest. They come up there. And so here are vehicles tracking up the beach where monk seals should be able to rest. In the sand dune area, why people just circle around the sand dunes with their vehicles so that there's no other vegetation. Sometimes they careen right over the vegetation, and it's unnatural looking, it's unsightly looking. And it actually goes against the idea of a scenic byway. Scenic byways are supposed to protect natural features.
Right. Yeah. And we do have some more photos of the actual condition of what Reese was just describing. And then just want to turn over to the council member. Like in your role, part of it is city-owned. And what exactly are you trying to do to help?
Well, just to further describe the area, if you think about Sandy Beach Park, right, there's two entrances into the park, one on the west side and one on the Makapu side. If you enter into Sandy Beach from the Makapu side, there's like a hard pan, really hard area, like it looks like a parking lot. It's not paved though. There's that area, then the sandy area to the left of that, then another hard pan area, and then the Irma's wall, right? Surfers out there know Irma's, really good surf spot. So that's really the area that we're concerned about. Because of that Irma's wall, everything Makapu of the Irma's wall is protected because over the years, I remember when I was a kid, off-road vehicles would go behind the wall and really tear up the whole place. Well, they can't get in there anymore. And I think 808 Cleanup, Sierra Club, and other crews have gone in there and just made it so nice. If you ever get a chance to go out there and walk through there, in fact, you took me there, and I hadn't been there in years, Reese, but it's beautiful. We want to do the same thing for the sandy area. We don't want to prohibit parking because parking is important. Beach access is super important to me. It's super important to the Hawaii Kai community. It's super important to everybody on this island in the state. So we want to be able to preserve parking, but yet at the same time, prohibit vehicles from going on those sandy dunes. I wouldn't let my kids lie down on the beach there because I'd be afraid they get run over. And you can see the color of the sand is really, really dark from the rubber from the cars. And there it is, right there. There's a photo. Although the sand looks okay there, but in person, it really is discolored, and that's the area we want to preserve. Look how beautiful it is.
Yeah. But also at the same time, and Reese, you did submit some photos for our show today that there are other, things like encampments and other things going on. So, like,
there's a squatter,
right.
There's a junk car, there's a pile of trash, about 10 black plastic bags, and a couple vehicle seats in that pile.
Yeah. And, you've been coming to the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board, and the council member did hosted earlier this summer a meeting with different stakeholders. You actually have a proposal.
I did. I have a proposed plan, which is pretty simple. I mean, you just put barricades around the 2 parking areas so that people have plenty of room to park, but they can't get out of there and onto the beach. And then you put some barricades along the highway. It doesn't take too many, really, because some of it doesn't need barricades, and then they can't get into the natural area. And voila, you've got a natural park with plenty of parking places. I submitted a resolution, a draft resolution, to the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board. Chairman Roberta Mayer has revised that and has come up with her own resolution. And that's before the neighborhood board at this time. And basically, it asks the city to do its job. This is city land. The city either loans this land or has it leased from the state. It's fully under city control. It's zone preservation. So preservation, that says right there, we should be taking care of it. As Tommy mentioned, the state is taking great care of its preservation land just beyond the wall. It is a gold standard example of what Vavamala Beach can be.
There's a lot of native plants there that came back as a result of the stewardship. I mean, it really is beautiful. If you have the time, people out there watching, if you have the time to actually go down there, park next to the Irma Wall, go on there and check it out. But it really is. It is something that is worth preserving. But as Reese was mentioning, there's derelict cars in there, just parked. One, I think, was lit on fire. I mean, it's just really bad. And a natural barrier would be nice. Some large boulders along the beach area on either side, so that cars can't get in there would really be nice, I think.
And then just to backtrack a little, it is city land, but which department within the city manages
Parks and Recreation. And by the way, just want to mention that I did ask the neighborhood board to join me on a walk with the director of the Department of Parks and Recreation, and she actually did come out along with members of the Sierra Club and other interested folks. I think we had about 35 people, and we walked through the entire area and talked about what could be done and or should be done in the area, and it was really, really well attended. But I got to tell you, I really value the opinions of the neighborhood board. So I'm not going to act until the neighborhood board takes a stand on this, right? Because they represent the community, right? It's democracy, it's grassroots. I want them to act. I want them to tell me what they want, and then I'll go and do my best to get it done.
Right. Yeah, and another thing, Reese, we discussed this a little, offline before the show is, another issue, we have this plan, and, even if we get the community support and the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board support, the next thing comes to implementation, also funding. So, I guess for Reese, is there a middle ground, or is there a way that, we can, get this resolved ourselves?
Well, nobody but the city could erect barriers. It's their land. They had standard blue park signs on it until last winter. One said, "Don't drive on the beach," and one said, "The following are prohibited," the usual animals, alcohol, things like that. But they have just not done anything since they even took those signs down. So I think there could be the Sierra Club has been involved in planting things along the highway with the state DOT. The state DOT tries to plant native plants along the highway. They've got a jurisdiction right next to the highway that they don't own, but they look after. We'd be glad to help with the recovery of the native plants. Whether they can find somebody to give them the boulders and truck the boulders in, that's a possibility. But you know, it's going to be a budget line item. There's going to have to be some money spent to get to make it into a nature park with 2 nice parking lots.
You know, so signage is inexpensive, but signage is only as good as enforcement, right? So you could put a sign saying do not drive beyond this point, but if you don't have enforcement, people are just going to do it anyway.
Right.
And in fact, you know, we're talking about the Irma's Wall. There was signage there, and people just went by it. They didn't care. So I think barriers are necessary, but the question is, what are they going to look like?
Right.
Right. So if you look at Sandy Beach along the highway, there are, they call them Jersey barriers, which cement blocks with telephone poles painted green. You know, we could do that. I've already called the Hawaiian Electric Company. I know in Kaimuki they got a lot of new telephone poles going up, and they're taking down the old ones. And I said, hey, give us your old telephone poles. And then we could get the Sierra Club out there with some green paint. We just need the cement blocks. So I'm trying to be creative so it doesn't cost taxpayers any money. But ultimately, if it does cost some money, I'm willing to fight for funding for it, because like we began the show talking about, this is worth preserving. It's worth spending a little bit of money.
Yeah. And, you know, I guess one thing I just want to highlight is, you know, this is not a short-term project or a short-term fix. This is a really long-term vision. And, you know, another thing, you know, that is related is the Sustainable Communities Plan for East Honolulu, which is currently under the draft review stages. And I just wanted to bring, you know, that up, and I wanted to just start with the council member, like, you know, what is that document, the Sustainable Plan, and, you know, how could that potentially influence, you know, the future landscape of the Kaiwi coastline?
Well, each community around the island has their own plan. Ours is called the East Oʻahu Sustainability Plan, Community Sustainability Plan, and it basically is a guideline for the Department of Permitting and Planning in allowing buildings or development, I should say. And within the plan, it says that we're supposed to protect this area, Vavamalu. You know, other interesting parts of the plan, we cannot build along the mountain slopes, things like that. So it is in a draft form. Ultimately, it's going to come before the council to approve, and the council gets to make last-minute tinkering to it. And I want input from the community before I do that. At this point, I saw the draft version, and it looks pretty good.
And then Reese, you know, the Sierra Club has been a major stakeholder in terms of the sustainable plan, and you know, it's not only just for East Honolulu, but you know, just across the island in terms of planning. The Sierra Club has always been, you know, on the, you know, they're advocating on the table. So, what is the Sierra Club's view?
Well, the mission of the Sierra Club is to explore, enjoy, and protect the planet. So the natural features along the highway there and other natural features, the trails in East Honolulu, those are things that the Sierra Club is looking after. I participated in the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board's meetings suggesting changes to the sustainability plan. And I represented the Sierra Club view in that effort.
May I point out that at the neighborhood boards that I've attended, by the way, from Hawaii Kai all the way through to Ala Moana, the State Department of Transportation came and presented on numerous occasions. And basically, what we learned was that Kalanianaole Highway coming in from Hawaii Kai at peak rush hour is at capacity. It's at capacity. Which means that we can't really afford to build any more houses out in Hawaii Kai. If you at all want to get into town at a decent time, you know, that's something we really got to think about.
Right. And, you know, speaking on that, and, you know, one other thing that has come up and related to our discussions in terms of the future of the Kaiwi coastline has been, you know, just more or less balancing, there's tourism and, commercial use. And, one example is food trucks, along Sandy Beach and along Maunalua Highway. So I guess for Reese, how is that going to work in terms of, balancing the concerns of residents, but also, just knowing the influx of tourists?
Well, the tourists are going to drive that to enjoy the scenic byway. They're going to take advantage of the beach. Food is a natural out there. You're a long way from Hawaii Kai shopping centers and places where food is available. We pointed out to city parks that there are zones, parking zones already at Sandy Beach where trucks could be parked, and they're convenient to the restrooms, which is also important. So they said they would look at reinstalling trucks there. They could even make some rent money there, which would help sustain the park. But right now the trucks are out on the highway, the traffic moves fast, parking near the trucks is problematical. It's not a safe situation, and it's not very attractive. It's really not a scenic byway with those trucks out there on the road.
And there are current signs saying no vending, and putting signs all the way down the highway, to me, it looks ugly. It's again comes down to enforcement. We're going to chase those guys out. Now, Reese made a good point. You could have legal trucks, food trucks, in the park. There's spaces for them. That's where they need to be. Everybody's hungry when they come out of the water, especially body surfing at Sandy Beach. You use a lot of energy. You want something to eat, I got no problem with that. It's just the illegal vending on the side of the road. And by the way, cars come whizzing by there. It's dangerous. You got tourists standing there, eating, or one of them does pineapple drinks. And then you see just a pile of pineapples there that they're not cleaning up after themselves, so that's a problem.
Yeah, and unfortunately we're out of time, but just want to thank the both of you for joining us today. And just want to finally thank all of our viewers for joining us. And this is just another episode of Maunalua, Past, Present, and Future. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Aloha. Thank you, Kendrick.
Thank you, Kendrick.